Well, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I am Hawkeye, and I'm here to bring you my next entry, my next film of 1981 science fiction that I really enjoy and want to talk about and do a review for. And that is Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits. Now, this film was directed by Terry Gilliam, who I believe the next film he did was Brazil. I've got the film actually right over here. I love that movie, but it was due to, at the time, Dennis O'Brien was the producer or producer of Handmade Films, which was created in order to make Monty Python movies. He was unable to get the concept or the real grasp of Brazil. So Terry Gilliam wasn't able to really get that project off the ground. So he said, well, hey, I'm going to make a family film, a family movie. So he got a hold of his buddy Michael Palin from Monty Python, and they penned this script to Time Bandits. And this is a really good, feel good movie. I think it's definitely for the kids, for the family. It's funny, it's fun, it's adventurous, it's all of those things. And this is a really good movie that really puts a smile on my face. Now, I guess I could show. I've got it here. I got a Blu-ray of it, Time Bandits, and I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty certain that's Terry Gilliam who did the artwork to his own film here, Time Bandits. There's not a whole lot on it. Like, I mean, of course, it's got the great picture, great sound. It does have a an interview with Gilliam who talks about Time Bandits, and there's questions asked to him about it. Um, but hey, I wouldn't give up that Blu-ray. This is a really good movie. So I did enjoy one thing he said in the interview, which I thought was hilarious when he was talking about Palin. He called Palin the bitch of Python, as every other member of Monty Python really wanted to work with Michael. So I thought that was very funny. Now, before I get into the review of the film, I definitely need to talk about Monty Python. And Gilliam was the more or less the he was the artist of Python. When you watch their shows or their movies, if there will be artwork. It was done by Gilliam. He was also the lone American in the group. The rest were British. Um, but I know Python is it's interesting to me because I don't find it that way, but I guess it's an acquired taste. You get it and you love it, or you don't really get the humor or the surrealism of Monty Python and what makes it so funny. I love Python. I think they are the greatest comedy troupe of all time. The greatest. Yeah. To me, there was no weak element of Monty Python. They were all highly skilled, highly hilarious, and worked so wonderfully as a team. When I watched that, they were the best. Uh, Another group that I thought was amazing too was SCTV. For example, I had like John Candy, Rick Moranis, Catherine O'Hara, just to mention a few in that group. But definitely Monty Python was the tops to me of all time of comedy troupes. Now, people always ask when you're a Python fan, hey, who was your favorite member of Python? I would lean towards just think cheese, John Cleese, and Michael Palin. But as I said, there was no weak element. I thought they were all hilarious. And whenever I see them in anything, any member of Python, I've got a smile on my face and enjoy their work. So Now, this film was released to theaters in the United Kingdom on July the 2nd, 1981. It was released later, November the 6th, 1981, in the United States. It had a budget of $5 million. And I must say they do a pretty darn good job with the 5 million with what you're given. It looks pretty good. I mean, they're the effects wise, they are using practical things. But hey, I think they did a really good job with the $5 million that they were given to make this film. Now, the return on the film, they hit a home run. They made 42.4 million bucks. As well, this was released through Universal and Handmade Films as well. But in today's money, this film made 143.2 million smackers. So they really did an excellent job on the returns of this film. And I'm not sure exactly when the interview was in on the Blu-ray of Time Bandits, but Gilliam states this is at that point the biggest film he had ever made in the United States. None of his other films made as much money as Time Bandits. Now, I remember the first time I saw this, I think I was 12 years old at the time. My sister and I, we rented this down at the local video store, brought it home, watched it. And I must say, on my initial viewing, it was surprising, but surprising in a good way because the imagination is great and where you're led is great and how the adventure takes place is great and shocking, a little unexpected. I knew Monty Python at the time, but I hadn't jumped into all their material or I didn't really know who Terry Gilliam was. I knew he was a member of Python and Palin was a member of Python, but I didn't really know Gilliam. And this would have been, I believe, the first of his films I ever saw. Now I'll go into the story, um, and then I'll go into the acting. I didn't certainly have any problems with the acting in the film whatsoever. But to go through the story, and this puts a smile on my face just talking about the story. Um, Six shorter people have ended up borrowing a map from the Supreme Being, or better known as God. Um, they've decided to jump through time and steal all the best stuff that they can get off of famous people within our own history. Thus, they're known as the Time Bandits, going through time, stealing from people. Um, but at the same time, God is on their heels wanting the map back, as well as the evil genius. He's on their heels as well and actually directs them to his lair to get his greasy hands on that map. Um, because he generally feels that God does not care for some of the things that are so important at that time and through the history of time. And like, for example, slugs cannot operate machinery. Like, he can't get over that fact. Now, the Time Bandits actually worked for God, and they had helped him during creation, making trees and shrubs. Uh, that concept just sounds so Monty Python to me, and I love it. And yeah, I certainly hope you've seen the movie. If not, turn this off and watch it. But great concept, and they run with it. And as I said, it's a really, funny and fun adventure. Now, the main actor in the film, the character's name is Kevin, who's an 11-year-old boy. And you find out like within like 2 3 minutes in the film he's got a time hole in his bedroom that these bandits come through. Like, in fact, like a night storms through his bedroom like as he's going to bed, But then the following night, he finds that there's these time bandits that come through this time portal, time hole, I'm sorry, and then he joins them on their adventure. Now, this character was played by Craig Warnock, and I gotta say, he does a pretty good job in his role. Um, I can tell he doesn't have a lot of acting chops. This was his first performance. He ended up being in only like one other TV movie. I believe it was a couple years later. Don't remember the title of it, but that's it. That's all that he ended up being. And it seems like when Sean Connery shows up, he's a little bit in awe of Connery. Probably I would be too at the time, or even now. I getting to act with Sean Connery, but I still, though, I think he does a pretty good job. And I've put that on Gilliam. I think he did a really good job in directing this kid, knowing what he needed for the kid, and bringing that out on the screen. Even with the kid who doesn't have any acting experience, he's still able to bring that out onto the screen for you. Now, this I'm going to go through the 6 Time Bandits, and I didn't realize this till I saw, like, was investigating this movie a bit. There's also 6 Monty Python members, so that is pretty cool. But the 6 Time Bandits are David Rappaport plays Randall, who is the leader of the group. Um, but I remember him in The Bride. And I liked The Bride, and the big reason was he and Clancy Brown really make that film work in the scenes they're in, the story, their side of the story. It really works. It also stars Sting. His side, I was kind of meh on, but it was definitely Rappaport and Brown that their story that made that film work. And I remember him in that movie, and I thought he was great in that film, as well as this one. And then Kenny Baker plays Fidget. He had played R2D2 in the Star Wars films. We've got Malcolm Dixon as Strutter. We got Mike Edmonds as Og, who gets turned into a pig at the end of the film. And we have Jack Purvis as Wally, um, and all 3 of those guys ended up being in Return of the Jedi. I think each of them played an Ewok in that film. And Purvis even was in Gilliam's Brazil as well. And finally, we have Tiny Ross as Vermin. He likes to eat everything he sees. And he was in a film that I have reviewed already in Flash Gordon. And I believe Malcolm Dixon was in that film as well. And all of them are great. Their interactions with each other is awesome. Each of them put a smile on my face. They're great. I love them. They are what really make this film work, are the Time Bandits themselves. Now, going through time and the characters they meet, there's Ian Holm as Napoleon. He does a very good job as Napoleon. Shows this weird, incredible rage, and really all he wants to do is watch little things on stage continually hitting each other. That that just makes his life happen. He loves that, and that is hilarious to me. And then we have John Cleese as Robin Hood. Originally, that role was written or was supposed to be Palin, but they got an old buddy of theirs, Cleese, to come in. I think he had a greater star power than Palin, but he plays Robin Hood, and to me, he is beyond hilarious in this role. He's got ridiculous hair, a ridiculous hat, um, and when after he meets the Time Bandits, he's able to make the poor considerably less poor due to everything that they have stolen. And yes, just a jolly good performance, jolly good. And then Sean Connery, he, I must say, when he shows up and he's in the picture, he adds a certain level of class to the picture. He plays King Agamemnon, who is this Scotch Greek warrior king. He's a king. Um, and he does a really good job. And he's definitely there to be the father figure to Kevin, because you meet Kevin's parents early in the film, and they're danks. They don't care about their son. They just want kitchen appliances and plastic on all of their furniture. As you can see, I don't have any plastic on my couch, but he shows up and he becomes a father figure to Kevin. And the time bandits are out of this film, and I think for a very good reason, so that you can really get that relationship between Kevin and King Agamemnon. And he shows up later as well, and I'll get to that. Um, but he also shows he's like a world, or wants to be a world renowned magician, as well as he pulls magic for Kevin in a scene with absolutely no effects. And that's a really cool scene, too. And then The Evil Genius. Fabulous performance from David Warner. He's excellent in this. Um, he's playing it for laughs, but playing it serious at the same time. It's a fabulous performance, and every scene he's in, there it's guaranteed I'm going to be laughing. There's something he's going to say or do that makes me laugh. And the one thing, it's like a ongoing joke that those that work under him, or the people that work for him, don't question him about anything, because he'll just zap you and you'll explode. And he does that continually, and it's a very funny joke that really works in this film. And then Michael Palin and Shelley Duvall show up multiple times throughout history as these lovers, or Palin is courting her, so that they become lovers. They're very silly, but very funny and very corny. And I think the kids will like those characters because they're so silly and so funny. Now, they do end up on the Titanic as well. And then after that, after the ship sinks, to me, my apologies to anybody out there who doesn't find this, and there likely will be a few. I find the film gets a little weird, and like just sort of where the story goes, or their characters they meet. I'm not saying this is a totally grounded concept by any means. I mean, we're talking about six guys who stole a map from God so they could run through time and steal things. But they then face off against an ogre named Winston and his wife on a boat. And then the boat ends up on a giant's head, who then walks out of the water and takes them to safety. It's just that doesn't, the film is then really ungrounded to me. It's not grounded, where like before it was, and even by adding Sean Connery, it really grounded the picture to me. It's okay. It's fine. It doesn't by any means ruin the movie or do anything like that. It just gets a little weird, and then you're going to the evil genius's lair. So maybe I'm just nitpicking a little and just like, okay, come on, dude. But I just find that it just gets a little weird. Now, the ogre and his wife, they're played by Peter Vaughan and Catherine Hellman. And I remember her from Who's the Boss? Um, and once again, really good performances there from them. I didn't have any problems with any of the acting in the film at all. Now, at the end of the film, when safety comes, when God shows up, and it's Ralph Richardson in a suit. Um, he does a great performance, and he's God. I love it in the interview on my Blu-ray with Gilliam, when he says Americans claim God is American, but he feels God is English, and they got a great actor to play that, and that's in Ralph Richardson, who also in this year was in Dragon Slayer as well. Now, I
So
must say, I thought this film had wonderful sets, but also wonderful costumes. Now, the costumes were done by James Atchison, who later won 3 Oscars for costume design, and they were for The Last Emperor, Dangerous Liaisons, and The Restoration. So he he was able to back this up, I guess, by the Hollywood noticing that, hey, this guy was excellent at his job, and I thought the costumes were great in here, and each of the Time Bandits has their own look as well, something going on with them. Now, the effects in the film I really enjoyed. The senior technician of the group of people doing the effects was John Bunker. There's something with the effects that you can grab onto, something tangible. They aren't effects like Star Wars or Flash Gordon, where you can sit back and be wowed by it. Even though Flash Gordon, there was definitely something you could touch there, but these I really enjoyed it, and there was definitely some practical things going on in the effects, which you may not notice the first time you see it, or the second time you see it. So I like that as well. Now, the music was done by Mike Moran, and it is also very good. It never overwhelms the scene or takes over or drowns out what you're seeing on the screen. It just blends wonderfully with the images that Gilliam has put on the screen for you. Um, Now, the ending of the film, even like Gilliam talks about it in the interview on the Blu-ray, um, the studio, I don't think really wanted this as the ending. And the first time I saw the ending, it was kind of shocking, but cool. Certainly for Kevin, as what happens as Kevin wakes up in bed to learn that the house is burning down. So King Agamemnon comes in, pulls him out of the burning house, and we see the parents outside who are way more interested in their kitchen appliances than their own son, who could very well have burned to death in this house. Um, but then they touch evil that's within a kitchen appliance, and then boom, they explode, leaving Kevin with no parents at all. And nobody's overly concerned at all, which is funny. But as I said, I didn't find it shocking or wondering how is Kevin going to get through life. It was just sort of at my age and watching it at the time, I was like, well, that's cool. Kevin can lead his life the way he wants to because those terrible parents aren't there. Um, but then watching it later, I definitely grabbed onto, well, Connery or King Agamemnon is really his father figure, and he is there. So he's got an eye on Kevin. So Kevin's not going to go through life um, without a parent or totally lost or anything like that. So yeah, it's got this reputation as this weird ending, but I never really found it weird myself. I always enjoyed it, and the older I get, the more the greater the ending actually has become there for me. Now, George Harrison was an executive producer along with Dennis O'Brien for this film. Uh, yes, that George Harrison. Yes, the Beatle. He also produced Life of Brian a couple of years earlier. And he actually did the ending track to the film, the song over the credits, Dream Away. And that is amazing that you have a Beatle playing a song in your movie. So that is amazing. It's a really good tune, extremely upbeat, and blends wonderfully with the movie and makes you say, yeah, this is a feel good movie. Even with that, to some weird ending, it's a feel good movie. Um, Now, yeah, even on the song itself, I found Billy Preston actually is one of the guys doing the backing vocals on the song as well. So that is pretty cool. Now, there was to be a sequel made back in the 90s, um, but it never came to fruition due to, at the time, I believe three of the Time Bandits had passed away. It was going to be by Gilliam again, Time Bandits 2, but it never came to fruition and he shelved the project, which is too bad. I mean, it would have been amazing if all of the six Time Bandits were there and they could make another Time Bandits film. Maybe it could have happened earlier, but hey, Gilliam had all these other projects he was working on, all these other great ideas for films that he was making. So it's unfortunate, but we were still able to get Time Bandits out of this. So there you have it. And as well, they're making a TV show called Time Bandits. Going to be released on Apple TV, I believe. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I have read Gilliam is an executive producer, but he has actually really no input on the writing or directing or the casting, anything like that. So, which is unfortunate because he would know the stuff better than anybody. But, anyways, maybe it'll be good. But that'll be released in fairly soon, I believe. So, there will be a TV show coming out. But anyways, that's my review for Time Bandits. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's this, and in watching it this time, it's really hanging with me, and like I want to listen to that song now. But yeah, I hope you've seen it. I hope you like this as much as me. You can even put down in the comments who your favorite Time Bandit is. Mine might be Randall, just because he's, I don't know, the leader and really thinks he knows everything. But anyways, yeah, I like this one, and I can't wait to bring you another review. And remember, Kevin, no more noise.